So tonight's talk is on something called the Brahma Viharas, and I'll just read from the article. There are 4 exalted states of mind taught by the Buddha, developed through the Eightfold Path. These are perfected mind states that reflect an enlightened view of humanity. In Pali, these states of mind are known as Brahma Viharas, or the perfected abodes. These are mind states that one abides in. You remember the talks on jhana, how that 4th jhana is often described as a pleasant abiding. That's in reference to that. And we can't realistically develop these qualities of mind unless we first have a mind that is well concentrated, could we? We'd just be distracted to less exalted qualities of mind. That might be kind of touching back on that talk we had before we started. That quality of mind might be pointed in the right direction, but because it's lacking wisdom, it's full of conflict at the same time, isn't it? That's not, so the underlying point of view might have some great compassion, but the result is that conflicted mind because it hasn't developed the quality of mind to hold that compassion in a realistic way. Does that make sense to all of you? So, and we find that out throughout history, that great compassion, or maybe just great passion, often misconstrued as compassion, has led to incredible suffering for many, many people, hasn't it? In the ideology of that passion or compassion, because it's lacking wisdom. It's lacking the qualities of these exalted mind states. These are mind states that one abides in. These states of mind animate conduct to all human beings. These are also the wise and loving response to all social interaction and will diffuse tension and conflict. It's one of the reasons why I say, and I know you all understand it, the most loving thing I can do for myself and for all other sentient beings is to awaken. Because then my simple presence in the world is contributing to the diminishing of tension and conflict, really by just taking care of my own mind. Literally. The 4 sublime mind states as taught in the Dhamma are love or loving kindness, or metta, compassion, unselfish joy, equanimity, and equanimity. That unselfish joy is kind of a perfect topic for right now, Thanksgiving week, and the idea of dana. We can't truly be resting in unselfish joy if we can't give freely. And the Buddha teaches the most generous thing we should be with is our understanding of the Dhamma, the most important thing to share. A teaching of the Buddha on these 4 sublime states is found throughout the Pali Canon. Here is a teaching on all 4 states from the Digha Nikaya 13, the Buddha's words. Friends, when one dwells continuously with their heart filled with loving kindness, pervading the entire world, they are now abundant. They have grown, they are now abundant. They have grown great. Their love is measureless, meaning we're not metering it out to those that we think deserve it and those we might want to withhold it from. Their love is measureless, and they are free from enmity and distress. So this is a description of an awakened human being who has gone past just the idea of a bodhisattva. I have compassion for all human beings, but I have now developed the wisdom to express that in truly useful and effective ways. And in so doing, whatever engagement I might have in the world will not affect the quality of my peaceful mind. Friends, when one dwells continuously with their heart filled with compassion, pervading the entire world, they are abundant, they have grown great, their love is measureless, and they are free from enmity and distress. And again, this should be seen in context. The Buddha taught an Eightfold Path to develop this. These aren't conceptual things that we should attach ourselves to and think that, okay, if I can be this way, then I'm a Buddhist. There's an underlying cause why we can't do this naturally in its ignorance of 4 Noble Truths. The Buddha continues, friends, when one dwells continuously with their heart filled with unselfish joy, pervading the entire world, they are abundant, they have grown great, their love is measureless, and they are free from enmity and distress. Friends, when one dwells continuously with their heart filled with equanimity, pervading the entire world, they are abundant, they have grown great, their love is measureless, and they are free from enmity and distress. So how does a heart filled with equanimity appear in the world? It's a heart and a mind and a compassionate response to the world that is equanimous, meaning it is balanced no matter what's occurring. There's no hate in it. There's no position taken. Again, just using the example of this that I went through the last couple of days, it doesn't mean that in order for me to understand the awful nature of modern animal farming that I have to hate everybody who eats a hamburger or even hate the people that are in the business of it. That's not a mind resting in equanimity. And it's a mind that's not seeing the entire situation clearly and so cannot contribute to that, to the resolution of the problem. And that's just one example of many. My words here. Love is always selfless and imbued with dana, or generosity. Love embraces all things in the phenomenal world while being mindful of impermanence. Love does not further clinging, including clinging to ideology. Love does not discriminate. With no I there is no mind of discrimination. Yes.
Isn't love a feeling and an emotion and all the things that, I mean, if you love something, you get attached to it.
Yeah, so I'm so glad you asked that question.
So that doesn't fit in.
I know. And it brings me back to, I think it was might be our first or second, I think it was our second retreat. And there was a person there, a wonderful woman who you all know, and I just won't mention her name. It's not all that important. Excuse me. But she is a devout bhakti yoga practitioner. Bhakti yoga is a devotional. This looks like someone's trying to. Come on, let me. Oh, I don't know. If you're trying to, let me see who that is. I see it's Eileen. If you want to turn your camera on, you can, and we'll be able to see you, but you don't have to. And you should be able to talk to us if you want. I'll ask for some comments in a little while. So it's a devotional practice rooted in developing love. And so about 2/3 through the retreat, I could see she was getting increasingly agitated, and she finally kind of blurted out, "When are you going to get to love? What does the Buddha teach about love?" And I thought about it a little bit, and everything the Buddha teaches is about love, but true love in relation to understanding Four Noble Truths. So there's the love that we are most commonly know, which is really rooted in craving and clinging, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And it can be at times a desperate type of love. In other words, we need to have the object of our love or our affection in some type of controlled environment for us to feel safe and happy and peaceful and calm, etc. Rather than the love that the Buddha is talking about, which is rooted in a lack of craving and clinging, and in a one-on-one relational sense, or even in a sexual sense, it is characterized by great generosity and not by looking what I can get out of it, not by craving and clinging. And I use the examples often of an old teacher of mine, not a Buddhist teacher. His name was Arnold Patton. And I went to quite a few of his workshops many years ago. And at that time, I was at his 50th wedding anniversary. This is 20 years later. I think they're still alive and still married. Him and his wife, Selma. And just looking at these two, Arnold and Selma together, the thing that just struck you, at least it struck me, was the incredible commitment and love that they have for each other that was expressed moment by moment, but not outwardly. It was just by how they were holding each other in their hearts and in their minds. And they talked about that often, that every day, they don't make a ceremony, but every day in their minds, they recommit to sharing their life with their partner. No other strings attached. It's just that in this moment, I want to be, and they said, they both admitted that if a point came in their life when they decided they didn't want to do that, They would simply leave, and there wouldn't be any enmity. There wouldn't be any hatred. There wouldn't be anything that often follows that. So it's such an important question. And unfortunately, we'd use the same word for a non-discriminating, non-clinging love, and that also reflects a craving and clinging form of love.
Could he say that at the end of her life and not have any?
Are you talking about Arnold now?
Yeah.
And not have any regrets? I'm sorry, I'm putting words in your mouth, David. I'm sorry.
At the end, not have dukkha, pain, loss.
Oh, because of her passing.
Without having an understanding of the Four Noble Truths.
I don't.
Point does it?
I don't. Let's get away from Arnold in specific because I don't know. In general, our reaction to the passing of a loved one, if it's rooted in ignorance, even the feeling itself will be fabricated to some extent, and usually it will be it will be overblown in the direction of self-reference, meaning what a terrible thing that is happening to me, rather than simply feeling the loss of someone that was in your life that was important, and also understanding the impermanent nature of all things. And that allows us to be appropriately grieving, while also in our hearts celebrating the fact that this wonderful person was a part of my life. And again, not to hold myself up as the perfect example of this, but when my mom finally passed, and I've told the story about how awful her ending was, really brutal. And when it was finally over, that's really what I felt, was the great sadness that she's no longer in my life, but this realizing how fortunate I was to have this person, not just as my mother. She was a remarkable woman, just that she was in my life for however long she was. And I still feel that way, you know, and as opposed to what went on with the rest of with my siblings and my father, which was an extreme reaction to this. And there's still a measure that I'm not going to even say who it is in my family, because maybe they listen to this. I doubt they do. Of resentment of her passing on, when it was, you know, in all ways it was a gift, but it was also just part of human life. So does that answer your question? What's the proper response at the end of life?
Well, I guess without getting specifically into that example, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a profound experience of impermanence, isn't it? And it doesn't mean, it's another misunderstanding of the Buddha's teachings, that if you, because it's not developed, that you just become this aloof, mindless robot that has no feelings or thoughts about anything that's occurring anymore. In other words, you completely distracted yourself from the world through your Dhamma practice. That's common in some of the practices, but the Buddha teaches a way to be completely and mindfully present with our life as our life occurs in every event that arises and passes away, but also understand it from the point of view of having gained profound insight into the three marks of existence, to understand the impermanence of all things, to not take anything personal, because we know nothing is, unless it's rooted in craving and clinging. And so there's that, what Lorna was getting to too, that personal type of love that causes reaction, craving, and clinging. And in some, you know, we all know the difficulties when that gets to extreme levels of control, etc. Great discussion. Let me get back to this. These are my words just in this subject. Finally, love is the Dhamma and living in and expressing the Dhamma. Compassion arises from understanding our own suffering. Through Dhamma practice, an understanding of confusion and suffering. Through Dhamma practice, an understanding of confusion and suffering occurs. Through personal understanding comes universal understanding. Compassion deepens for ourselves and others through right understanding. Again, I'm going to comment on that, because I've noticed something in myself that wasn't there before. And this is in the last couple of years, and I'm getting a little personal about this, but it just seems appropriate. I think I'm a rather normal human being, despite some of my abnormal proclivities here and there. In that I was born with compassion for others, and I think we all are. Through most of my life, I really didn't understand how to appropriately express it, and out of confusion and delusion, there were times when I didn't act in very compassionate ways. But I think that's common too. I think sometimes we're confused by our own lack of empathy towards certain people and towards others. And as I've developed the Dhamma, I've noticed this empathetic compassion when I hear about sometimes a generalized type of suffering, but usually it's individualized. And it's just something that I hear about that comes up. And the sadness for the suffering is, it's so viscerally powerful, but at the same time, it's not distracting or overwhelming. But it is something that has developed within the Dhamma practice. And the only way that I can explain it is that what the Buddha is teaching is it is a profound understanding of suffering, because I understand my own. I understand the nature of suffering of others in such a deep level, without the need to, because I understand what I can do and what I can't do, without the need to react or rail against it or blame God or blame the world or blame social structures or situations at all. It's just suffering occurs. And I think because I'm able to let go of needing things to be different than they are, I'm now able to see things clearly as the Buddha describes here. Does that make sense to all of you? And I would bet that you're all experiencing that too, aren't you? It's a more realistic, but more, excuse the word, more connected view and experience of suffering in the world, and connected through wisdom, not connected through ignorance.
And that's seeing life. I said on Saturday, we see life through the veil of our own ignorance, really.
Yeah.
And what you're describing is maybe the veil is still there, but it's not so thick as it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, just a personal example, just because it pops into my head. My dad, you all hear me talk about, he'll be 101 in April.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And his wife, my mom, has been dead, I should remember, a long time. I don't remember how many years. And he still has this belief rooted in his own magical thinking, influenced by religion, that somehow in this physical life, they're going to be together. And he knows that it's not going to happen, but he talks as if it is. And I wish we could go to, this would be the time of year that they'd go to Cape May, and I wish we could be going to Cape May and doing these other things. And when he says that to me, I understand. And again, I'm not saying I'm so wonderful, but I understand it, and I can appropriately feel what he's feeling and feel true compassion. When I talk to one of my family members, be careful not to even sex this, because they'll figure it out. They'll know who it is. They complain about how agitated this makes them feel. Why doesn't he get over it? Why doesn't he understand? Why does she keep talking about her? Well, he doesn't. It's not a question of anything other than that. That's the way he is. And my response also is, he's 101 years old. He can act however he wants, I think. But it's just an example of the difference between a misunderstanding of what compassion is and all of that, and what true compassion and understanding is. And I hope I didn't take us into the weeds too far.
You're defining compassion as being unattached to the outcome, unattached to the conditions, unattached to unattached to their pain and suffering, but also just recognizing it.
Yes.
And not having to fix it. So another type of, someone might define compassion as being able to help people and always having to, be the one that fixes things. And and that's with less clarity.
Yes, and it's less clear because of our ideological views
Sure.
than actually having compassion rooted with wisdom, the wisdom of understanding the nature of suffering. So the Buddha, the first noble truth, dukkha occurs, at first seems, well, okay, that's interesting. But as we start to awaken, as the Buddha describes awakening, a profound understanding of suffering is a profound understanding of the nature of human life. And it develops true compassion because we understand the nature of suffering of all beings in the world. And in a very practical way, using the description I just gave of my father, that this is how it works. It's not something conceptual, and it's not something when we completely understand the nature of suffering and the nature of true compassion, we'll do what we can without insisting that the environment be different than it is. Why? Because it can't be. Dukkha occurs. It's a consequence of having a human life. Let me continue with this. Compassion is also free of discrimination and passion. Compassion to all beings begins with remaining harmless. Compassion to all beings is maintaining right intention, the intention to recognize and abandon craving and clinging. Unselfish joy is pure joy with others' success and happiness. It is joy that seeks to further others' happiness without passion or discrimination. The highest aspect of unselfish joy is the joy that comes from recognizing another's understanding of the Dhamma. And that, again, that might seem to some rather insignificant, but it is the most compassionate thing we can do, isn't it? To pass along our own understanding and end the conflict in another person's mind. Equanimity is a mind that is free of reaction, stable in its understanding of the three marks of existence. A mind resting in equanimity is a mind deeply mindful of all that is occurring, and a mind that responds with wisdom, love, and compassion in all situations. A mind of equanimity is a mind free of an attachment to an ego personality and is free of defending or maintaining the ego self. Equanimity is a mind of lasting peace and happiness. These are mind states free of discrimination. In this manner, they are also referred to as boundless states, as they are not limited by any partiality, meaning the partiality of me deciding how things should be, rather than seeing them clearly as they are. These qualities of mind are effortlessly maintained in all situations. They are the result of a wholehearted Dhamma practice that has a recognition of views arisen from a lack of understanding and has achieved a measure of non-reaction or equanimity. The framework for Dhamma practice, the Eightfold Path, produces the right view necessary to gain mindfulness of these perfected mind states and recognition when one is not abiding in them. In this way, mindfulness of the state or condition of one's mind in the present moment provides a direction for ongoing Dhamma practice. And that's also in a reference to the fourth foundation of mindfulness, isn't it? This is another practical aspect of non-analytical insight. Shamatha Vipassana meditation brings insight to all clinging and impermanent views arising from a lack of understanding. As meditation practice develops within the framework of the Eightfold Path, mind states that are less than loving or compassionate or lacking unselfish joy or equanimity become apparent. Putting aside the need to defend views of an ego self allows recognition of these sublime states and the right intention to renounce clinging to these views. The entire Dhamma develops these four sublime mind states. The love that is developed is not a reaction to passion or possessive of an object. Compassion is also dispassionate and informed with wisdom. Being free of attachments allows for true joy in others' accomplishments. A mind of equanimity is always mindfully present and unwavering in love, compassion, and unselfish joy. In this way, the Dhamma is a Dhamma of developing perfect love, and perfect love has aspects of all four sublime states of mind. That's the end of my article. I hope you found it useful. Thank you. Any comments or questions on this talk, or we'll just go around the room? Let's do that. Lorna, good to see you tonight.
Thank you. It's good to be here, and thank you for holding this extra class this week.
Yeah, my pleasure.
This one. In a way, you could say that this reads a bit like the Eightfold Path But the Eightfold Path is to get you to the goal. It's like this side of the goal. And what you've looked at tonight is a description of getting to the goal and what is beyond the goal.
Yeah.
In the description of how you would live your life and how you would live your thinking, how your thinking will be after you're awakened. So it's kind of like the Eightfold Path will get you to the awakening point, but this is the description of the awakening point and beyond.
Yep.
I'm sure I'll find out if it's right one day when I wake. Yeah, it's all good stuff. I mean, you can't say it isn't, but I can't say that I hold that state of mind all the time, obviously, 24 hours a day. I mean, I don't. I would like to think I did, but I don't. I'm stuck with my conditioned thinking and my views of this and choosing that, and but it just opens the door to the possibility of what your mind, the possibilities of your mind if you had your thinking clear to start with.
Yes.
And that's what I think it sort of came across that way to me tonight.
Yeah, that's it. And your recognition that it is through the Eightfold Path that we develop these qualities of mind is really the most important thing here. Rather than, okay, I'm going to be filled with love, and that's good. I mean, that's going to be my practice, or that's going to be how I establish myself in the Buddhist world or in the world. It's not that. It's understanding that we develop this through the Eightfold Path. And until we have achieved the ultimate goal, these are qualities that we recognize that we're developing. And I would say that you recognize these qualities developing within you. And a few years ago, you never would have considered the qualities at all. Right? Why would you? I mean, we all want to think that we're loving and compassionate, et cetera, but the problem is we don't understand why we're not at times. And because we don't understand it, we tend to dismiss that and create a fabricated view of ourselves. And that's really what the Buddha's teaching here too. So thank you. Mary, good to see you.
Good to meet you, John. Good to see everyone. Thank you for holding this class.
Thank you for being here.
I think I'm taking with me, just a very simple concept that it's through the Eightfold Path that we, can arrive at love and compassion.
Yes.
In all its purity. I appreciate the distinction, and even the way you said we only have one word for it, right? Love, and it means a lot of different things, right? Yeah. We could have a whole lot of different words. So if somebody was translating from our language into another language, they might have a lot of different words for the different kinds of love that there are.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. But true compassion and true love come from an understanding of the Eightfold Path, but beyond that, a living of it,
Yes.
an integration of it, a clear embodiment of it, so that just is love and compassion. So that's wonderful and aspirational. It's just really beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mary. Yeah, it's beyond just an intellectual engagement with the Eightfold Path, isn't it? Because that won't bring you to these exalted mind states. But rather quickly and directly, the Eightfold Path will bring us there. And when you take away some of the more exalted language associated with what I'm talking about, these are mind states that everybody really wants, isn't it? This is really what we want out of our life. to feel and think this way all the time, but we don't understand how to get there. Why? Because our minds are rooted in ignorance of Four Noble Truths until we come across these most profound teachings. Good to see you, David.
Well, John, it does just speak to it's the incorporation of all eight and not just part, because you can see how many pursuits of, I'm sure, certain parts of the Eightfold Path, probably not called that, can bring joy and love, but if you don't have that understanding, you will have that second arrow and not understand it, and you'll rush into the next time and not understand it. I don't know if that's a bad thing. Maybe the whole world operates under that, and that's just the way that they feel life is.
Yep.
Is a misunderstanding, and that's just at the end of the life, we lose people that we love, but with an incorporation of Eightfold Path and a true understanding of the three marks, then that kind of gives you that freedom from that second arrow. And that's all that this is
Yes.
the second arrow.
Yep.
It's as simple as that. And I guess that's what I take from this past year. And I thank you.
Thank you. That's a profound understanding, David. You could say that the first arrow is the first noble truth, dukkha occurs. The second arrow is craving originates and clinging perpetuates that suffering.
Here's your answer. Here's your
Yeah. And
you
it
know
all,
you got on it.
yeah, and it all relates to that. And the way to understand it is, again, as you expressed, through the Eightfold Path. And this is why I say it's very simple. It's not easy at times. But we have to get through our own conditioned thinking that it should be something other than this, with a different, maybe a different goal than this understanding. But again, these mind states are states that we all want. We just don't know how to get there. Some of us think we can get there with more money or a bigger house or better friends or, a better president or a better, anything, better, rather than understanding that the underlying cause is a lack of understanding. And this also relates directly to the Buddha, to that Arya Pariyasana Sutta, where the Buddha is teaching these exalted mind states as the culmination of the path, rather than how those two teachers mentioned there. And the culmination of the path is an establishment in a non-physical realm. There couldn't be two things more opposite, could there? Than a present quality of mind united with its body, or an establishment in a non-physical realm. You can't even compare the two. So again, that's why I taught those the way I did. They're not even levels of achievement along the way. And any establishment in a non-physical imaginary realm, such as I'm the world's greatest Republican, is an establishment. I don't mean that as a political statement, just as an example. Is an establishment in a non-physical realm, because it's just an idea. It's not something. Even if you might be, it's still in your head. It's an imagination. That's a non-physical realm that you've established yourself in, rather than uniting the mind and a body with a mind that's always resting in joy, love, compassion, and equanimity. Wow. And I said, wow, because that's what I wanted. And I was talking about myself earlier when I was a kid and confused and frustrated. That's really what I wanted. And the most remarkable thing, the most fortunate thing in my life, was I found a path that actually delivers that directly through my own efforts. I don't have to be anything. I can, or nothing. It's not bestowed on me in any way from an outside agency. It's up to me, entirely up to me. It's remarkable. Liz, good to see you tonight. Thank you for coming.
See you too, and that when you are younger and in a state of wanting this and getting that, you instinctually go towards self-referential reactions to things.
You can't help it.
Different levels.
Yep.
And it takes something like this practice to realize that that's the wrong, you're heading down the wrong street.
Yeah.
So anyway, I appreciate the simplicity that brings clarity, and clarity, when confusion arises, it's usually attached to a conditioned, some kind of conditioned circumstance,
Yeah.
clinging to something.
Thank you, Liz. And when that arises, at whatever point it is, your reaction to it, like in the Salata Sutta, and many others, you're only continuing your conditioned mind. And because we're not given a reference, we're not given a choice. That your mind, you're 14 years old and you go into a room and somebody smart is in there and says, your mind is conditioned, develop the Eightfold Path and you'll be okay. No, they don't do that, do they?
I don't know if I would have accepted that.
Well, that was my point. It would be, well, that, that's not for me. The Buddha talks about chanda, or skillful desire. At some point, those of us, using the terminology of the Buddha, those of us with just a little speck of dust in our eyes will hopefully find this. We're all here because there was something that motivated us, whether it was confusion or frustration, or maybe just some type of interest, just in Eastern religions maybe, but there was something that drew us towards seeking understanding in a way that we didn't currently have at some point in our life. And eventually we find something like this that describes even that as an aspect of dukkha. And there's nothing wrong that I wasn't told when I was 14 years old. Your thinking is wrong because you lack understanding of the Eightfold Path. I probably wouldn't have accepted it. What is most important, and it's what the Buddha set out to establish, is that these truths are still here. And they're here for us who are interested to develop them, and we find that they work. That's the most important thing.
I was reading recently, and I think it was through something like the Big Think or something like that, where they're going back through Maslow's information on the hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
And they believed that there was another level of need that he just hadn't completely formalized, and it's this.
Wow. I studied Abraham Maslow a fair deal. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on everything, but there was definitely something missing, and I think it was just this, that he didn't understand the concept of not self as the Buddha understands it. He didn't understand the three marks of existence in that way. It seemed to me, and I'm kind of going from maybe a bit of a cloudy memory, that his underlying, I don't know what the underlying theme of his was to establish a self that is free of confusion and suffering, and that is, using the word, actualized to a high level in the world. But he lacked an understanding of the nature of that, and so there's an inherent amount of I-making in his ultimate hypothesis.
So maybe someone is just reviewing his research, and I'll have to look into it further, because those Big Think articles are sort of short little tidbits of a thought or an idea, and there might be more to it, but it sounded to me as though there was information to support that he felt there was another level to this whole philosophy.
Yeah, I think I still have a couple of his books, so you got me interested. I'm going to go back and read him again, because there was a lot of brilliant understanding in what he was putting out too.
Yeah. If I find the article again, I'll send it to you.
Please.
I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. What a great class. I'm glad we had one this week. So our Donna dinner's tomorrow. I hope you all can attend. And I don't know what to expect. I heard.
haven't posted it on their Facebook page.
Oh, good. I just remember to put it in the Frenchtown Facebook page too.
Maybe that's where they put it.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. We may have a whole ton of people. We may be, I mean, it may be small. Obviously, it could be small or large or anywhere in between. I didn't hear back from any of the first responders that I emailed, but I did hear back from some of the local, the mayor's going to be there and a few members of the board.
How about the mayor of Milford? Is he coming? Did
Oh,
he reach out to you?
I didn't.
No, I sent you a note.
No, he didn't, but I could.
Okay,
Or if you think about it, just maybe just nudge him.
I'll send him a note.
Yeah,
He
just
said he was free and then he.
okay. Yeah, if he does show up and I don't notice him, please point him out to me
Oh,
just
I
so I
will.
can
Did you go
acknowledge
to
him.
high school with him?
Yeah, I haven't seen him since, I don't know. Henry Stephen. We were, both of us went to high school with him.
I hope he comes. And congratulations on John's win down
I
in
know.
Oklahoma. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hallelujah.
yeah,
He
that was
had
really.
to leave his classroom behind, so that was tearful. and-
Oh yeah,
They
yeah.
did the local paper, well, the Tulsa World paper, did an article on how, on his last day at school when he was saying goodbye to his students and how hard that was.
Oh,
And he
yeah.
was also interviewed on HBO Vice.
Wow.
I don't know if I already said this, but so in the interview, they're talking to him in different places. One is he's doing a rally talk for teachers, and one is an interview in his living room, and his 10-year-old son is there. And on the coffee table is a board game, and it's I don't know if it was Dungeons and Dragons, but it was a strategic. He plays these strategy games with his son. So the guy said to him, "How is this going to feel? You have to leave school in order to go and do this, to take care of education in Oklahoma." And he says, "Well, The Lord of the Rings is my favorite book, and Fredo had to leave the Shire to save the Shire."
That's great.
A comment on HBO. I thought that was so great. And all of his kids, I'm sure, because he used the metaphor of Lord of the Rings throughout all of his teaching and stuff in school. They all, they would all play different characters. I mean, he just was a phenomenal teacher. He is a phenomenal teacher. So to hear him say that on international TV, I thought that was pretty funny.
It is. He sounds like he's very self-effacing.
He is.
Yeah,
Yeah, just what we need in politics today. So.
well, now we just need to hope that he can make a difference.
And he brought his son to they had a orientation and swearing in ceremony. And he brought his son on the floor of the house
Wow,
Yeah,
in Oklahoma.
what an experience for his son
It's going to be,
and him.
yeah.
Ah, that's great. All right, we'll finish as we always do. There is going to be a class Saturday, and then 2 more classes next week, Tuesday and Saturday, and then we'll be done here. We're moving down the street after that on that Saturday, December 1st. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a nice spot over there.
Which room will we be meeting in, do you think?
There's a room about 2/3 the size of this room behind.
In the back?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'll be a little bit more intimate for us, but I think it's going to work out fine. And positives too. There's no stairs. That's nice for me. But there's parking for most everybody. Should be able to fit
Right.
their cars on site right there. So, yeah. All right, we'll finish with metta as we always do. So, find your relaxed meditation posture. Take a moment to become mindful of your in-breath and your out-breath. And these are the Buddha's words on metta from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing, in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thank you all for a wonderful class tonight. Peace.
Good job.
Thank you.